Hey, what's up guys, welcome to a new video. My name is Prince Meyson. Today we are going to be retouching this image from start to finish, and I'm not going to be using any overly complicated techniques. This is just a very simple full retouching tutorial that anybody at home can follow. We're not going to be using micro dodge and burn. We're just going to stick with frequency separation, just really basic things. But if you want to learn pro retouching techniques and you want to take your retouching to a whole new level, then you can definitely check out my retouching masterclass that is available right now. I'll put a link in the description below. Just click on that and go join that course if you know that you want to take your retouching to a whole new level. The course has everything you need to learn from basic to advanced frequency separation, and also it has micro dodge and burn, global dodge and burn, and everything. And you'll be retouching 6 images from the beginning of the course to the end. So definitely check that out. But yeah, let's get straight into retouching this image. Now, the first thing I'll do is turn on my exposure warning right here, up here on the right side. Now, the reason why I'm doing that is if I'm messing around with the sliders right here, especially the exposure sliders, I want to know when my skin is getting overexposed. So what I'm going to do right now is just dragging my highlights from my levels. As you can see right here, this is getting overexposed and that's not what we want. So I'm just going to pull that back, and then I'm just going to pull in my shadows just a little bit, just to add some contrast to it. Now, what I typically do sometimes is just pull up my shadows just to make everything a little bit brighter, because when I get into Photoshop, I'm just going to like darken things up a little bit and maybe just drag my highlights down so the skin is not overexposed. I can see a tiny dot here, but that's totally fine. And this all I'm going to do in Capture One. I love how the skin tones look. They just look really good. The face matches her body, and that's what getting a good makeup artist would do for you. So always get somebody that understands skin work, right? Big shout out to the model for this photo shoot, and big shout out to the makeup artist too. I'll put their links in the description below, so if you want to check out their pages, definitely go check out their pages and support them. I support everybody that works for me, because that's the only way to grow. So now I am basically done right here in Capture One. So all I'm going to do is edit with Photoshop, and I'll use these settings here, these basic settings here, and just click edit variant. So what this does is that it creates a new variant, but it's just going to open one in Photoshop, that particular variant in Photoshop. So you have two files. You have the one that you're working with, and you have your original raw file. Okay guys, so now we are in Photoshop, and first thing I want to do is create a frequency separation action. Now I already have my actions right here, and if you want to get into my action game, then definitely check out my retouching essentials pack. It has 14 amazing actions that will help you retouch better and retouch faster. So I'll put a link to that too in the description below. If you want to get them, then definitely do that. So what I'm going to do for this image, like I said, we're just working with what anybody in the house can do for their portraits, and at the same time still get really amazing portraits, right, from retouching. So what I want to do right now is just click on my basic frequency separation and just be somewhere around her face. For an image like this, I'm probably just going to use a radius of about 5.8, maybe 6 at most, but nothing more than 7 for an image like this, right? Now, how I typically pick my radius is the further the person is, like if it's a full image, then the radius is really small, right? Because like the ratio of the skin to the complete image is just very, very tiny. If it's like a close-up where you have more skin area to work with, then I'll go with the higher radius. But somewhere around 6.8 is totally fine for this. So what I'm going to do right now is pick my mixer brush tool, and I'm just going to zoom in. Or before I do my mixer brush, let's get our clone stamp tool. And with my clone stamp tool, what I am going to do is just make sure that my sample is on current layer. I am working on high frequency. So I'm just going to take out some of the blemishes real quick. Nothing out of the ordinary. Now it feels weird that I'm not going to work with micro dodge and burn, because typically that is what I do. Maybe I should do a video comparing micro dodge and burn and frequency separation. That would be interesting. Okay, so at this point, I am done with my high frequency layer, and all I have to do right now is just pick my mixer brush tool and use descent up here. So wet 30, low 30, mix doesn't matter. It can be 100, it can be 1, does not really matter. And my flow is 131, and just use descent right here. So make sure that you toggle on this clean brush after each stroke. Okay, great. So now I'm going to come down to my low layer, and what I'm just going to do with my frequency separation is just work on my low layer with my mixer brush tool. So what I typically do with my frequency separation is not drag colors around too much and just work around the edges, right? So just work like this, just really simple. Now, I absolutely adore using micro dodge and burn before frequency separation, but it's not everybody that can make that happen, you know. When you're working on portraits, sometimes it's just really difficult to make that work. So because of how much time it takes, and it's not everybody that has that much time for their portraits. So we are going to do something different. Like I said, just straight to frequency separation and see how that comes out. And I will do a video really soon comparing frequency separation to micro dodge and burn, and how the advantages. So basically, we know the advantages. The frequency separation is just a lot faster and easier to learn than micro dodge and burn. Okay, great. So I can say we've done a decent job around the face right now. Not as good as it would be if I use micro dodge and burn, but I mean, you know, pretty decent job. So sometimes what I do is I typically use like a big brush, and not a small one, so I can just smoothen out like a lot of areas at the same time. And what that does for me is that I don't have any tiny strokes from small brushes around. And if I want to work with a small brush like this, I can just see a tiny shadow here, and I'll just take that out. Okay, great. I would say we are not doing that bad right here. Let's zoom out and see what our image looks like. That's our before, and that is our after. Before, after. You should be very careful with frequency separation, because sometimes it tends to look very destructive, and it's easy to just go overboard with frequency separation, to just do too much. And that's not what we're trying to do with this image. We're trying to see how we can make it as natural as possible at the same time. Okay, so I think I have done a pretty decent job with just frequency separation. And what I'm going to do right now is just run my, let's go back to the high frequency layer. Just fix here up just a little bit. You can see a lot more textures there than I would like. Okay, and here too. Okay, now I'm a perfectionist, to be very honest, with almost all my work. It really doesn't matter how fast I'm trying to get work out. I just try and make sure that it's as good as possible. But that's just me. You don't have to be like me. Okay, great. So now I think our skin work looks pretty decent. Next thing I want to do is run my global dodge and burn action. And what I'm going to do right now is just pick a brush, change my flow to maybe 3%, 4%, somewhere around that. Okay, great. And now that I have done that, the next thing I want to do is just dodge away. Now for my dodge and burn, typically what I do is turn off any layer I've done any retouching on, so I can really see where the highlights are popping and go with those same highlights and not create new ones myself. And that way the image looks exactly the way it was before it was retouched. It just looks a lot more refined, right? So make sure that my foreground color is white, and what I'm going to do right now is just dodge at this distance. As you guys can see, I am not going too close to dodge, but just at this distance, because for the most part, this is how most people will see this particular image. Get that glow right here on the shoulder. Then just create some highlights right here around the hand. Same here too. That highlight right here. Typically there is going to be a highlight right here and right here. So let's just make that happen. Okay. I can say we've done a pretty decent job. Let's see our before and after. So if we turn this on, let's see our before and after. You guys can see what we've done a pretty decent job right here. Remember, if your images do not look good from the beginning, it's going to be really hard for you to get really good retouched images. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Your images have to look really good from camera before you can turn them to a piece of art in post-production. So put that at the back of your mind. Okay, great. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is burn. So I'm going to turn this off again and just go with how it looks. Now for my burn, I do not go overboard, and the reason is because dark skinned people have more melanin, so you don't have to do too much when it comes to your burn, because I mean we're already, you know, pretty dark and chocolatey and we look great, so you don't have to do too much. But if the person is really light skinned, then you might just need to go a little bit further with your burn. Okay, great. And if the person is light skinned, you don't have to dodge too much, but when the person is dark, you might just need to add that little highlight there to, you know, make our skin that's popping even more popping. You get me? Okay, great. So this is our dodge and burn right here. Before, after, before, after. Okay, great. I think we've done a pretty decent job right here. Her eyes look really white, so I don't have to run my eyes and teeth whitening action, except I just want to. But I mean, let's just do that for doing sake. If you want this action, you can get it for free on my digital store. Link is in the description below. So right now I'm just going to take my flow all the way back to 100%. Zoom in. And just whiten her eyes and reduce how bright it is and reduce the overall effect. So let's see how before and after, just really subtle. Okay, great. So we have gotten our image to this place. The next thing I want to do is create a levels adjustment layer and then hold Option or alternate on PC, dragging my whites. You guys can see at this point it's already blown out, but just a little bit, not too much. You can see that highlight is, you know, really popping. Pulling my blacks somewhere around here. So let's see how before and after. You guys can see standing out a lot more. Just going to fill the screen up. So I'll show you guys where we started from. This is where we started from, and this is where we're at right now. We're doing pretty good. Now, remember those skin tone lots I told you about at the beginning, the natural skin tone lots? What I'm going to do is just throw one of them there. So maybe two. Whew, that looks great. That looks beautiful. Okay, great. Now I'm just going to take the opacity down to somewhere around here. And that looks amazing. Love how that looks. Okay, great. Maybe just add another one from the previous skin tone lots that I used to use. So if you guys do not have my signature skin tone lots, you guys can check that out. That looks nice, but maybe I would stick with that. Let me see what works here. This looks good too. Now I'm just probably going to stick with 2 and then reduce the opacity. See that? In like 2 minutes, done color grading this thing. Okay, great. So this looks good. What I want to do right now is go back to my levels and drag this maybe to 3. Because I'm still going to do just a tiny bit in Capture One. Okay, great. So we have our image here. Let's see where we started again. This is where we started. This is where we are at right now. So from here, what do I do next? What do I do next? Like, I'm just figuring this out. I retouched this image like a month ago, one of them, but not this particular one. So I'm just figuring this out as we move. Okay, great. Hue saturation, maybe no, hue saturation, not color balance. So my hue saturation, maybe pick the greens here and see how the greens will look. If I switch the color just a little bit. Okay. How does that look? Okay, looks nice. Looks pretty decent. Okay, great. And now maybe add a vignette, because I love my vignettes. I just can't do without my vignettes. Absolutely love them. Hold shift, drag down so it's on a straight line. Okay, I messed that up. So I'm going to go into my vignettes and go to my basics and just pick this and click OK. And then do that again. Let's see how that looks. Okay, great. That looks a lot better now. Reduce my opacity somewhere around here. So what I'm trying to do in my vignette is I'm trying to bring the attention to her face and not all over the background, just her face, right? So another thing I can do right now is just select my subject first. So what I'm going to do is select my subject. It's going to do a pretty decent job for me. Go to my vignette, and what I'm going to do is create a layer. So on this layer, what I am doing right now is creating a layer mask and make sure that the vignette is not on my subject and it is mostly on the background. So I'm going to work a little bit more on this. Oh, that's on the vignette. Sorry. So I'm going to create a new curves adjustment layer. And what I'm going to do is hold Option and just drag this up here. And I'll replace layer mask. And what this is doing is it is creating this layer mask right here again. And now I can just mess around with my background further and just make my background just a bit, just a little bit darker and maybe more contrasty. Yeah. And a bit darker. Okay, great. So I'm just trying to make sure that my subject stands out of the background, and then I'm going to create a new vignette over my subject and the background. Reduce my opacity, and that way the background looks a lot darker than it was. So let me show you guys. If I turn this right here off, you can see how it looks. With this on, the background looks a lot darker and it's creating a lot of separation between my subject and the background. And I love how that looks. I can try soft light and overlay to see how that looks compared to normal. Okay, great. I think I'm just going to leave it at normal. Okay, we have done a pretty decent job here. So let's see how before and let's see how after, see how far I've come. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is just be careful with these two and not mess around too much with that. Okay, great. So somewhere around this looks pretty decent. Okay, good. Then 29. Something like this looks good. Another thing I typically do is that I create another layer mask right here, and I pick a white brush, obviously flow at 100%, and I just paint it, or black brush, I mean, sorry, and I just paint it over my subject just to make sure that her face is very well in focus. Make sure that the face is glowing, because you know that's where I want everybody to look at. I'm trying to direct attention to this part of my subject, right? Okay, great. So now what I want to do is Command Option Shift and E. So that's create a stamp visible layer, right? And then go to filter and then go to liquify. So because of how she's resting right here with her hands, I don't like how this looks. So I'm just going to try and fix that. Just bring that down inside. And then I'm going to try and fix this too, because I don't like how this looks. You know, just make it look a little bit better and a little bit normal. Okay, great. I don't think there's anything more to do here. Maybe just bring this in just a little bit. Okay, so let's see our before and our after. Before, now after, that looks a lot better. Let's click OK. So let's see our before and after. You guys can see this looks a lot better and it looks more natural, right? Okay, great. So now what I'm going to do is save this image, and I'll see you in Capture One. So now we are in Capture One. This is our before, this is our after, and maybe just add some finishing touches right here in Capture One. So just going to drag my midtones down. That is typically one of my go-to styles when it comes to color grading portraits. And maybe put my highlights down a little bit, have everything looking really nice and smooth, and then mess around with my what do you call it, with my shadows. And let's see our before. This is our before. See, everything came and it was like really strong highlights, and you know, wasn't really blending together as well. But right now, look at how this looks. Really nice, subtle, straight to the point, looks beautiful. And then the next thing I might want to do is just add vignette again to this, and then go into my colors. Skin tone or advanced. Let's do our skin tones and pick our skin tones. Just going to pick the colors around there and then mess around with my hue till I find something that works for me. No, this one. Till I find something that works for me. If you go back, you add more magenta to it. If you go forward, you add more greens to it. So maybe just forward by 1. And this is where we're at. Let's go back right here. My shadows. Let's go to our mid. Let's go back to our highlights. Maybe make our highlights pop just a little bit more. And that's about it. I mean, like I said, nothing extraordinary. We're not, well, this looks great. This looks extraordinary. But you guys understand what I'm saying. We're not trying to go overboard today. Maybe it's not as basic as I thought it was going to be, but you guys get it. You guys understand. So this is just bringing a lot of attention here. If you're looking at this image, you're not going to be looking at all these parts of the image. You're just going to look at what is in the middle of this image and see how this looks. This looks beautiful. So this is our before. Actually, this is our before. This is where we started from. And this is our after. What do you guys think? If you absolutely love this and you learned a thing or two today, let me know in the comments below. And like I said, my retouching masterclass is available right now. All you have to do is click the link in the description below and go register for that. And also check out my digital store. Lots of freebies for you guys and everything. Subscribe, give this video a thumbs up if you love it. Absolutely enjoyed making this video, making this tutorial, making this retouching tutorial from start to finish. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Have an amazing day, guys. Peace out.